Imagine you've worked hard for years, saving every penny in a bank account that you believe is completely safe. You see the numbers on your screen stay the same, or perhaps grow slightly with a bit of interest. But while the numbers are steady, a silent thief is sneaking into your vault every single night, unnoticed. This thief doesn't take your bills, it takes what those bills can actually buy in the real world. We call this thief inflation, but for the savvy investor, it is better described as a hidden, unvoted tax. Welcome to the reality of the hidden tax, where your loyalty to saving might be costing you your future. To understand this, we must look beyond the currency and look at the actual value of your labor's time. Robert Kiyosaki often says that savers are losers in a modern economy, a statement that sounds harsh but holds truth. He isn't saying saving is bad, but rather that saving cash in a devaluing system is a losing strategy. Let's break down the mechanics of how your $10,000 today becomes significantly less powerful by this time tomorrow. Think of your savings account like a bucket of water meant to sustain you during a long, dry season. If that bucket has a tiny, microscopic hole, the water level drops so slowly you don't even notice it. By the time you are thirsty and reach for the bucket, you find it is only half full of water. Inflation is that hole, and the tax is the water you lost without ever receiving a bill. Most people believe taxes only happen when the government sends a notice or takes a cut from their paycheck. However, as Milton Friedman famously stated, inflation is a form of taxation that can be imposed without any legislation. It is a tax on everyone who holds money, but it hits the middle class and the poor hardest. This happens because the government increases the money supply to pay for spending without raising traditional, visible taxes. When more money chases the same amount of goods and services, the price of everything naturally begins to rise. Your $100 bill doesn't change color or size, but the groceries it buys slowly shrink in quantity and quality. Let's look at the math. If inflation is at 5% and your bank pays you 0.01% interest, you're losing. You aren't just stagnant, you are effectively paying the economy 4.99% a year for the privilege of holding cash. Over 10 years, that small difference compounds into a massive loss of purchasing power that you can never recover. This is why Dalio refers to cash as trash during periods of high monetary expansion and low interest. He argues that while cash is less volatile than stocks, its guaranteed return is actually a negative one. Imagine a loaf of bread cost $1 40 years ago, but today that same loaf costs you nearly $5. The bread hasn't changed. The wheat is the same, the baker is the same, the oven is the same. What has changed is the value of the dollar you are using to exchange for that specific loaf of bread. Your grandfather could buy a house for $30,000, a figure that wouldn't even cover a down payment today. This isn't just growth, it is the dilution of the currency you are working so hard to obtain. When the central bank prints more currency, the value of every existing dollar in your pocket is slightly diminished. It's like adding water to a fine soup. The volume increases, but the flavor and nourishment become much weaker. You have more soup in the pot, but you have to eat twice as much to feel full. This is the essence of the hidden tax. The government gets to spend money first before prices go up. By the time that new money reaches your hands, the prices of goods have already adjusted to the higher supply. You are essentially paying for the government's ability to spend through the reduction of your own personal wealth. This is why assets like real estate, gold, and stocks often go up during times of high inflation. They aren't necessarily becoming more valuable in a vacuum. They are simply retaining their worth against a falling dollar. An ounce of gold bought a fine suit 100 years ago, and it buys a fine suit today. But the amount of paper currency needed to buy that same ounce of gold has increased by thousands of %. If you had saved paper, you'd be broke. If you had saved the asset, you'd be exactly where you started. This realization is the first step towards financial freedom and moving from a saver to an investor. To protect yourself from the hidden tax, you must own things that the government cannot print at will. You must seek out hard assets or productive businesses that can raise their prices along with the inflation rate. When the cost of living goes up, the revenue of a great company also tends to go up. This allows the investor to keep pace with the hidden tax, while the saver falls further behind the curve. Consider the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which is the official measure of how fast prices are rising. Many economists argue the CPI is engineered to look lower than the actual inflation felt by the average family. It often excludes the most volatile and essential costs, like food and energy, or uses substitution to hide price hikes. If steak gets too expensive, the index assumes you buy hamburger meat, pretending your cost of living stayed flat. But your quality of life has actually decreased, which is another subtle way the hidden tax is masked. Understanding this nominal versus real return is the secret language of the wealthy and the financially literate. Nominal return is the number on your statement. Real return is what is left after inflation is taken out. If you make 10% on an investment, but inflation is 12%, you have actually lost 2% of your wealth. You might even have to pay capital gains taxes on that 10% gain, making your real loss even worse. This is a double tax. First, inflation eats your value, then the government taxes you on the nominal growth. It sounds like a rigged game, and in many ways, for the uninformed, it absolutely is a rigged game. But once you see the strings, you can begin to dance to a different tune and protect your family. The goal isn't to stop saving, but to change what you are saving and how you store value. Moving from currency to money is the psychological shift required to thrive in an era of high debt. Remember that debt is actually the inverse of a savings account in an inflationary environment. While inflation steals from savers, it actually rewards debtors who own fixed-rate assets like a 30-year mortgage. You pay back the bank with cheaper dollars in the future that are worth far less than today's dollars. This is how the wealthy use good debt to acquire assets that grow while their debt effectively shrinks. It's the ultimate hedge against the hidden tax, turning a systemic weakness into a personal financial strength. As we wrap up this lesson, look at your bank balance not as a fixed number, but as energy. Is that energy being stored in a leaking battery, or is it invested in a growing engine? Don't let the silent thief take the fruits of your labor without a fight or a proper strategy. Educate yourself on the history of money, the gold standard, and the rise of digital assets like Bitcoin. Diversification isn't just about different stocks, it's about different types of value that resist the printing press. The hidden tax is only hidden if you refuse to look at the reality of the economic system. Now that you see it, you have the responsibility to act and position yourself on the right side. Start small, think long-term, and always prioritize real value over the illusion of paper wealth and security. Your future self will thank you for recognizing the tax that no one ever talks about at dinner. Take control of your financial destiny today and stop letting inflation quietly drain your hard-earned dreams. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel and master the strategies needed to build genuine, lasting financial wealth, and I will see you soon.